Thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet Voice You Know with the News You Trust studio, sponsored by Grain Equipment Company, where innovation meets execution. I'm Dale Minio. Today's the final day of setup for the Farm Science Review, and we'll be there all thanks to the folks of Ag Credit. Powered by Soy Biodiesel, the rest of the week will also be at Farm Science Review. On Wednesday, we'll bring you an update from the folks at Morton Building. You can find them at 516 Land Avenue. And on Thursday, we'll get an update from the latest in the Ohio preview of the results of the Ohio Agricultural Mental Health Alliance From Stress Survey, including what is stressing farmers. Again, we'll have that for you on Thursday. And Friday, I'll head to the Ashland County Fair, all thanks to the folks at the Ashland County Fair. As we look to other notes, contrary to the average trade pre-report opinion, USDA raised their U.S. average yield projection for corn in the September 12th NASS crop production report. Instead of paring it back, they raised it another half bushel per acre to 183.6 bushels per acre. This data is from Alan Brugler at DTN. USDA on Thursday hiked the projection of the annual world corn use to 1.7 million metric tons on the industrial use side rather than the feed use line on the balance sheet. The various NASS and World Ag Supply and Demand estimate outlooks do contain some seeds of possible price improvements, other than the obvious one of looking past a harvest low that frequently occurs in September or October. First, the world numbers went in the right direction this month. World production was reduced 1.3 million metric tons in the European Union and Russia. Low prices are doing what they are supposed to do, which is increase consumption. As an aside, Chinese production is still seen as record large despite their challenges throughout the season in both flooding and dryness. This could be attributed to the increased adoption of genetically modified corn varieties and trend yield improvement overall. The U.S. yield increase appears justified by the current data. While declining seasonally, the percentage of the crop rated good to excellent is still the highest since 2018 or earlier for this date. Trend yield goes up by about 1.9 bushels per year due to genetics and improved practices. USDA increased the projected yields from last month for North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Texas, Iowa, Louisiana, Mississippi, Indiana, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and New York. There are 10 states with projected record average yields, including average heavyweights, Illinois, Iowa, and Nebraska. What might drag the yield down and hurt final U.S. production in tighten stocks, one obvious candidate is kernel fill and test weight. The years per acre in the 10 objective yield states are well below last year. That puts more emphasis on grain weight per ear. Corn Belt temps were below average for the 30 days ending September 7th, but are expected to be above normal most of the Corn Belt over the next 30 days. Finally, we don't want to overlook South America. First crop corn planting is underway in Brazil as you hear this. Current prices are low enough to discourage average expansion there, but USDA still has a 5 million metric ton increase for the 24-25 marketing year due to assumed better yields across the 3 cropping seasons. Argentine producers are thought to be reducing acreage due to insect and disease problems in 23-24, but WASDE currently expects their production to exceed last year by 1 million metric tons. That would put it at 51 million metric tons. Small rallies are okay here, but a big rally in September or October will tend to attract more production south of the equator, which U.S. producers will not welcome. Today's weather brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Here's the forecast.
More drying with very warm air in over Ohio for this week. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at that forecast update. Ohio not seeing any moisture until likely next Tuesday. For the entirety of this week, we are going to be seeing sunny, warm, and dry weather. A little bit of tropical moisture trying to come through the Carolinas this week. It will not make it into our neck of the woods, so there's not much to stop us from drying down significantly. Evaporation rates at nearly a maximum. The thing is, there's just not much moisture to evaporate right now out of the soil profile. It's all going to be coming out of crops, all right? So we are looking at a frontal boundary trying to take a root in the upper Midwest the late next week into the weekend. Strong low pressure. That front, though, really can't break free and move through our area until overnight next Monday night. That means after midnight through probably midday on Tuesday. Hit and miss scattered showers. I'll say a tenth to maybe 3/4 of an inch. Coverage ends up being about 70% of the Buckeye State. But I also think with the dry column of air over the top of us, we're going to be to the bottom end of that rain range, at least the way this front looks right now. Behind it, we dry down again as we go through the rest of next week. Wednesday, plenty of sunshine, little bit cooler, but we're still looking at well above normal temperatures, and that extends through the rest of the week. I am not looking for gully washing rains or any kind of significant moisture anytime in the next 2 weeks. That's the way your forecast is stacking up. I'm meteorologist Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. Joining me is Tad Nicholson from Ohio Corn and Wheat. And Tad, our update this time to talk about is the crop that's out there. The economy's not the greatest, and as we look at overall demand, it's a challenge. How do we look at moving this corn crop and looking at future intentions for farmers to continue to plant corn?
Farmers know that we do business in agriculture based on relationships, and that's no different if you're a corn buyer in Ohio or a corn buyer in Japan. And so we bring those corn buyers over here to show them who's growing the crop, what their family's like, what their grain system's like, what their equipment's like. They need to know who's growing that, and it matters worldwide. So bringing a trade team in, foreign customers into the United States so we can give them a tour around. It's one of our favorite things to do. We get them out there on the farm. Farmers love to talk to them, and they love to talk to farmers. So, yeah, that's a very important part of the U.S. Grains Council strategy to increase trade around the world.
Not trying to throw you a curve, but how many of the international customers have asked a farmer what your carbon score is?
They're very curious about this. I mean, it's worldwide. It's not just being talked about here in the United States. This is a worldwide concern, sustainability in general, but it leads to a low carbon intensity score type of a conversation if you get down in the weeds. But everybody is focused on sustainability everywhere around the world.
And thank you, Tad Nicholson, Ohio Corn and Wheat. A final biological opinion that led to national restrictions on the pesticide malathion is the target of a new lawsuit filed this past week that alleges the decision by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service violated the Endangered Species Act. Environmental groups asked a federal court to declare unlawful a biological opinion issued by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service on the pesticide malathion. In February of 2022, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service issued a biological opinion that concluded malathion would not jeopardize listed endangered species or their habitats. In the new lawsuit filed in the U.S. District Court for the District of Northern California, the environmental groups, led by the Center for Biological Diversity, said U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service biological opinion contains numerous analytical shortcuts and arbitrary policy choices. The final biological opinion was based on agreed-upon measures, including no spray zones, reduction in application rates, and number of applications, as well as other label changes that, taken together, avoid jeopardy and adverse modification of critical habitat, according to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. The group said in the new lawsuit that the label restrictions may reduce harm to some listed species, but the most threatened and endangered species would not benefit. Malathion is used largely to control mosquitoes as well as aphids and other crop pests. Back with more after this.
Get ready for the 62nd Annual Farm Science Review, September 17th, 18th, and 19th. It's more than a farm show. Explore over 600 exhibitors across 2.6 million square feet, providing equipment, services, and education for farms of all types and sizes. Tickets can be purchased at participating OSU Extension offices and agribusinesses, as well as online. Visit fsr.osu.edu to buy your Farm Science Review tickets now and plan your show visit. We look forward to seeing you at the 62nd Farm Science Review, September 17th, 18th, and 19th.
Hi everyone, this is Dale Minio from the Ohio AgNet. For a quarter of a century, I powered my truck with biodiesel, traveling the state promoting agriculture. Biodiesel is a reliable, high-performance fuel that works in any diesel engine without modification. The best part is that with every mile driven, I'm fueling the economy, doing good for the environment, and supporting soybean farmers. Learn how using biodiesel can add value to every bushel of soybeans grown at soyohio.org. The Ohio Forestry Association Foundation will open its grant application window for small-scale projects on September 15th. The grants are designed to assist an organization in the conservation education project with a maximum individual grant of $2,500. Applications will be accepted between September 15th and October 13th this year. The grant awards will be selected and announced by December 1st for funding to be used in the following calendar year. The address for more information is www.ohioforest.org/page/grants for complete details of the grant program, including application details and directions. The Ohio Forestry Association Foundation is a charitable, nonprofit organization working to promote conservation, education, and critical awareness of the importance of forest resources to our environment and the economy. Time now for the Louis Dreyfus Grain Analysis, brought to you by the Ohio Soybean Council and your soybean checkoff. Here's Ryan Martin.
Grain markets finished mixed last Friday. We were a little bit stronger on corn, a little weaker on beans. And the wheat markets, well, they just did wheat market things overall. We finished out with numbers a little bit stronger, well, a lot stronger in Chicago, Kansas City, and Minneapolis, but there were not a lot of headlines to help. So what were the stories late last week? What will the stories be this week? As we moved through last week, soybeans were sagging late in the week because of lackluster export demand. You know, we got through the prior 2 weeks with very high-frequency sales announced each day on the flash reporting system, a lot of them to China or unknown. But then those kind of went away last week, and so that was problematic. On the wheat side, Parent Sweet struggled with expirations and convergence, and so that led to a little bit of a bump. And on the corn side, there was just an end-of-the-week bounce on profit-taking, if nothing else. Meanwhile, as we take a look at the USDA flash sales, 100,000 metric tons of U.S. beans were reported sold to China for the 24-25 crop year. The purchases last week, China's known purchases of U.S. beans are now at about 5 million metric tons. Unknown sales at 4 million metric tons. So far, China has appeared to have booked about 9 million metric tons of beans out of an estimated 22 to 23 million metric tons. And so now we're looking at the calendar saying, okay, is it too far out of expectations to expect them to move or buy any more than 12 to 13 million more metric tons, or are we fooling ourselves here? So that's the story. That's the concern right now. Last year, China imported about 24.3 million metric tons of U.S. beans. That equates to about 892 million bushels. Brokers report that last week, funds bought 5,600 contracts of corn, 5,900 contracts of wheat, sold 5,400 contracts of beans on Friday. I'm Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. We'll look at the overnight figures after this. Get the equipment and trucks you need at Ritchie Brothers' next Great Lakes Regional event on September 18th, 19th, and 20th. This absolute unreserved auction will feature online bidding. Items are located in Columbus, Chicago, and Detroit. Choose from over 6,600 items, including a wide selection of construction equipment, truck tractors, and more. Don't miss Ritchie Brothers' Great Lakes Regional event on September 18th, 19th, and 20th. For more details, visit rbauction.com. Again, that's rbauction.com.
Who wants them?
And just a quick reminder, the Farm Science Review hours on Tuesday and Wednesday at the Review are 8 until 5, and on Thursday it is 8 until 4, and we'll see you at lot number 135. Yes, we're still in the Red Barn, right across the avenue from John Deere. Today's market's brought to you by Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Turning to the overnight, December corn down 3 3/4 at 409.5. Next March is 427.25 cents, down 3 3/4. If you want to look clear out to December of 25, it's 445.75, down 2 3/4. The November beans are down 5 1/4 at $10.01. January 10, 19.5, down 5 1/4. And if you jumped out to May, wanted to hold it that long, it's 10.48.5, down 4 3/4. In the wheat side of things, we've got December, if you're still carrying it, down 6 1/4 at 588.5. And on the July wheat new crop next year, we're down 6 on the overnight trade at $6.25. 21 cents. In livestock, October cattle 177.65, down 38 on Friday. December cattle at 178.50, down 10 cents. The October lean hogs were down 45, closing at $78.45. December lean hogs $71.30 and down 25 cents. October feeder cattle $239.13 and down 63 cents. Some new postings on our website of cab cams and videos. Check it all out online at ohioagnet.com. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day, everyone. I'm Dale Menyo. This is the Ohio AgNet.